So that there's no, or that there was any conquest of Israel or Palestine by the Jews, or that there even was an Egyptian sojourn. Well, these things are hardly proof, but the people obviously remembered something like this occurring. This is in the folk memory. I don't think they made it all up. I think something happened. I don't know if the numbers are reliable, but I'm sure that something did happen down here. Now, a very good theory about Moses that was advanced by German scholars in the 19th century. I can't name you the actual ones, but Freud, Sigmund Freud, picked it up in his book, Moses and Monotheism. It was one of the last books that he wrote in his life. He wrote it when he was in England. To write a book like that, you need psychoanalysis, actually, because the book is half mad itself. So it's not surprising to me that he invented psychoanalysis, because as he goes along, he really completely loses it. But he's an old man by this time. I mean, he's got the Jews killed Moses in the wilderness, and therefore they had to kill the father, so they had to worship the son later, and he brings in the Jesus thing. I mean, he's really gone kind of bonkers. But he starts off well in the book, and his thesis originally is that Moses is not a Hebrew at all. That the actual stories here of Moses and the bulrushes and all those favorite stories are, well, we know they are somewhat mythological, because there are God stories about various gods. I'm not an expert on various comparative mythologies, but Osiris, I think, was found in the bulrushes and things like that. And there are all kinds of legends and stories that would maybe absorb into that kind of presentation. But that's to Hebraicize Moses. That's to make him one of ours. That actually he looked like an Egyptian prince. He talked like an Egyptian prince. He had an Egyptian prince name. And if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then the conclusion often is it is a duck. So Freud said Moses was an Egyptian. And the stories Hebraicize him. You know, so, oh, well, we actually birthed him, but she put him in a bulrush, and then, you know, the Egyptian princess found him, and so on. But you see, the name that they give him is a Hebrew name, but Mos in Egyptian is a perfectly good Egyptian name. Ramos, Amos, Amosis, Tutmos, Tutmoses. Moses in Egyptian means something like son of. That's why all the rulers have often Moses in their name. I don't know if you ever noticed that, because we don't know a lot of Egyptian rulers, but all the ones we know have Moses in their name. So, you know, the Hebrews, because a similar word in Hebrew is Moshe. Because, you know, Jews call him Moshe, to pull out. Like all the other stories we've had. Okay, the story is pull out, we'll give him a story about pull out, because Pharaoh's daughter pulled him out of the Nile, right? That's the presentation here, isn't it? However, there's a loophole, and I've already told you about that, but I can tell you again. There's a weakness to that story. The weakness to that story is, why would Pharaoh's daughter give him a Hebrew name? If she's naming him, and that's the presentation, she'd give him an Egyptian name anyway. So, I mean, you know, the whole story really doesn't hold up to historical analysis. It holds up to literary analysis, which is fine. The stories work on the literary level, as I've told you over and over again. It doesn't matter what actually happened. It only matters what people think happened. It doesn't matter if Jesus existed or he didn't exist. It doesn't matter if he could do the miracles he did or he couldn't. It doesn't matter if he walked on the waters. It doesn't matter if he could take swine and put them into pig flocks and they run off mountains and stuff like that. That doesn't matter. It's what people, that's what people believe. That's what they think happened, and they don't really care what actually did happen. The myth takes over the reality. Now, well, that's what really happened. No, I know that's what you say happened, but I'm sure that that's not what really did happen. And you know, that's the problem of a religious document vis-a-vis a non-religious document. Like scientific treatises are dull as can be because they're not poetic. And so when you get a scientific picture of the Big Bang or something like that, or other kinds of things, it's not going to be mass marketable like a religious document is. Because a religious document, as someone like Jung would say, appeals to archetypes. So anyway, I don't want to argue with you whether it's possible to take evil spirits and put them into swine. I mean, you know, ancients thought that. I don't think moderns generally do. And I frankly don't even think moderns think there is such a thing as an evil spirit. You know? I mean, people have evil spirits, but nothing you can do about it. You can't take it out like a tapeworm. They are what they are. And you can't exercise them. And people are what they are. And usually they get worse as they get older. So, I mean, it's usually age and chemistry and things like that. And you can't change things like that. Genealogy. So that's what we've decided in the modern period. Most of us, not all of us, most of us. So those stories reflect their time and place. And I don't want to hurt your feelings. It took me about until I was 40 till I was brave enough to say that. I, like you, accepted the stories in the New Testament at face value. I've told you that, and they puzzled me. They puzzled me because I said, I want to do some of those things like everyone else. And I think I told you, I finally gave it all up when I got to India when I was around 25 or so. And I said, you know, I threw my glasses into the Bay of Bombay, and I said, that's it. I want to see now without, I don't want any crutches anymore, you know. And I deserve this. I deserve this. I got this far on my own, you know. I went across deserts before anyone ever did things like that. I got to India from Europe for $50, hitchhiking in local buses and things like that. You know, I deserve the strength I showed that God should show me some kindness. And of course, what happened? I couldn't see a thing, and my eyes just got worse. So I began to realize, as I told you, the problem was not in me, it was in the stories. I mean, it was in, and you know, it's hard for anyone to say that. You can't stand up against all society, all your parents, all your culture, all your priests, all your ministers, everybody, movie actors, politicians, great men, Freud, you name it, you know, Tolstoy. Who are you to stand up against anyone like that? You know, you should live a short time. And that's why I think it's nice that people tell you this is what you need to worry about and this is what you don't, because life is tough enough anyway. So the point is, I would have appreciated some of the things that maybe you don't like hearing from me, but if someone had told me some of these things, it would have saved me a lot of trouble.